Krish, if the Georgian government thought the steam was going to go out of these street demonstrations as a result of that vote this morning, they were wrong. If anything, the crowds that are gathering around Parliament tonight are bigger, it feels like to me, than the ones that were here last night. Listen, there's lots of detail around this piece of legislation. There will be another hearing tomorrow, and there's lots of political shenanigans going on around the scene. But this law, make no mistake about it, represents one thing to the people on this street: their country pivoting towards Russia.
For the thousands of demonstrators outside Parliament last night, this is the Georgian dream. The EU and Georgia, star-circled lovers in perfect step, with no room for Russia.
Russia, you are occupied for Georgia. It's our country, not you. Georgian people don't want Russia. It's a government that want Russia. We are Europe, and we believe in Europe.
But there's another Georgian dream, the country's ruling party pushing through legislation that could set a different tone. The so-called Foreign Agents Bill is seen as a cut and paste of laws Vladimir Putin used to bring civic society and the media in line.
It's not about the law, it's about the decision of the government to take Georgia in the direction of Russia and to put Georgia under the influence of Putin's regime.
For these people then, with their ex-Soviet country's history, last night was a showdown, not just between them and their government, but between two competing civilizations. They stayed out all night, determined to try to block Georgian Dream MPs from voting through legislation to the next stage this morning. At dawn, the police started to clear them.
So it's just after 5 in the morning, and it would appear the police are going to try and clear the few thousand protesters that are still surrounding Parliament building at the top of the road. A line of riot police has arrived, water cannons. It's about to start.
The government had threatened jail terms for those obstructing MPs getting into Parliament. There were scuffles. Around 20 people were arrested. But when the time came, the demonstrators were moved. The MPs arrived, and after a hearing that lasted 67 seconds in a half-empty committee room, for those outside the country, took a step closer to Russia. On Saturday, one of the biggest demonstrations Georgia has ever seen. As opposition to the bill has escalated, so too has the price of opposing it. Last week, people who will be forced to register as agents of foreign influence had their homes and premises targeted by gangs of masked men, some caught on CCTV.
Oh, these are all liars. This is no place in Georgia for agents.
Investigative journalists like Nina Zuriashvili featured in wanted-style posters, calling her a traitor and foreign agent, plastered around the neighbourhood where she lives and works. In other cases, it wasn't just balaclavas and paintbrushes, it was baseball bats.
Gosh.
And how many men attacked you?
At least 2 or 3, at least.
Professor Gia Japorisa is an academic who runs a think tank critical of the government and the new law. On Wednesday night, attacked outside his home. Did they say anything to you while they were attacking you?
Yeah, while beating me, one of them said why I'm against the law.
The Foreign Agents Bill?
Yes.
So no doubt in your mind that this was a politically motivated thing?
No, it was organized by the ruling party.
Georgian Dream have said they were not involved in these attacks and say the new legislation is about transparency of funding, not a diktat from Moscow. GD's de facto leader is oligarch Bedzina Ivanishvili, made much of his money in Russia back in the day. From the hills surrounding Tbilisi, Georgian oligarch Bedzina Ivanishvili surveys his political domain from a pad, let's face it, giving off some serious Bond movie vibes. Back in 2012, when he formed Georgian Dream, it was an eclectic mix of partners, and the offering was, on the one hand, friendship and stability and peace with Russia, but also moving towards membership of the EU. EU membership is still the party's stated aim, but Brussels says this new law could seriously damage those prospects. On Saturday night, we waited to interview a Georgian MP at the forefront of discussions with the EU. As demonstrators passed the Georgian Dream HQ, the chant went up,
You're Russian slaves. So I suppose my first question is, are you?
No, not at all, of course no. But in Georgian society, Russia and EU is the most sensitive to topics. Russia in a negative way, EU is in a positive way. 85% of population supporting European integration, and it says a lot.
Over the years, Georgian Dream has in many ways brought the country closer to the EU. But remember, 20% of this country is still under Russian control after the war in 2008. And now with an increasingly aggressive neighbour, keeping Putin sweet has to be part of their equation.
We are not members of NATO, we are not members of European Union, and we don't have security guarantees, and we don't have economic solidarity for the moment. And in this region, and with military presence of Russia on our territory, I think that it is very clear why Georgia has to be twice more prudent when taking any decisions in this situation.
The demonstrators on the streets have a vivid sense of being both European and Georgian, not Russian. But Georgian politics sometimes boils down to Georgian geography.